While your day is winding down, they're just getting started. This is South Coast Tonight with Chris McCarthy and Marcus Farrow. They've got you covered on all the news of the day, from local issues to politics on both sides of the aisle. This is the place where the movers and shakers come to be heard, to listen, and where they're held accountable. This is South Coast Tonight on WBSM.
Marcus. 508-996-0500 is how you can get in the program tonight. We're also taking your messages on the WBSM app chat. If you want to shoot me a message, we're just talking a little bit about, we're just talking a little bit about the midterms. I talked about it with Congressman Jake Auchincloss. He called it a repudiation of extremism. I think in a lot of ways that's right. I think, the overturning of Roe v. Wade is one of the things that doomed Republicans. I think running terrible candidates like Dr. Oz and Don Baldock and Blake Masters, I think running bad candidates too. You look, Lauren Boebert's on her heels, one of the far right, I guess, quote unquote, populist members of Congress. She might win. It looks like she's going to pull it off, but just barely, and she still might lose. So I think that's a correct assessment. Again, we're going to have Armin Thomas from Split Ticket call in. Should be calling in any minute now, but in the interim, I'll take your calls and take your app chat messages at 508-996-0500. There's a lot of talk now about whether or not, Ron DeSantis is going to run for president, and, how he had this, he had this soaring, all pump up speech, and oh my God, it was so amazing. I don't know. I thought it was whatever. But I guess that speech isn't for me. I think Trump kills him in a primary, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. I think, there's a lot of reasons for that, but I guess we'll get into them later. We're joined by Armin Thomas now. Hey, Armin.
Hey, Marcus, how you doing?
Good. So
sorry I am late. I had a lot of stuff covering these midterms,
No, I get it. It happens. So I've had some people just not show up before. So being late is a much preferable alternative. So Armin, before we get started, what is you're an elections mapper. You're a partner at the website called Split Ticket. What is Split Ticket?
So Split Ticket is an elections coverage outlet, right? We're kind of like what Nate Silver does with 538, or what the Upshot does at the New York Times. We try to provide an interesting perspective that, other people, might not consider, grounded in data, married with a little bit of qualitative analysis as well. And so, we did our predictions for the race. We've kind of been covering the race and, the actual votes that have been coming in and, seeing how they're breaking. And, it's a very interesting picture that we see. We had our ratings, designed around the Republican-leading environment, but that just doesn't really seem to be what is materializing here. And, we built a tracker about, who is going to win more votes for the House, the Democrats or the Republicans. And we said the Democrats were going to do that. Separately, but we thought that was so crazy, right? Because all of the polling indicators we had, pointed to a mildly Republican-leaning environment. So we didn't actually base our ratings off of that, even though we had that as an advisory tracker. But it seems that that other side of what we did was actually correct. So, it was a pretty good, even if we weren't necessarily right about how individual races went, we certainly undershot Democrats, as I think a lot of people did. We got the directionality of things correct, and we got, the overall picture of how, if we were wrong, how it would go wrong. We got that right. So, I think overall it's been a pretty good set of results in terms of matching split tickets projections.
Well, the thing is with like guys like you and Nate Silver, like it's probabilities, right? It's not like this is going to happen. You're saying this is likely to happen based on this. This is likely to happen based on that.
Exactly.
If this doesn't happen, it's because of this. If this doesn't happen, it's probably because of that.
Exactly.
So I think that's a good way of looking at it. So it looks like are Republicans going to take the House?
So I'm going to lean yes, very, very tentatively. It depends on a number of outstanding seats.
It's kind of amazing that this isn't off. This is a midterm year. The party's out of power. Gas is however much gas is today, $1 million a gallon. There's inflation and whatever economic angst, and you're saying that you're going to lean tentatively towards the party out of power winning the midterm elections. I just think about 2010 when things weren't.
I would never have believed this happening, right? I mean, again, every indicator we had pointed to a modest Republican, set of pickups in the House and the Senate. It really depends on, especially control of the House is going to come down to states with a lot of outstanding mail-in ballots like Arizona and California and Washington. One thing we do know, I'm pretty comfortable saying that Lauren Boebert has won re-election in Colorado's 3rd district.
That was close, though.
That was on nobody's radar as being remotely competitive. Okay, except ours. We moved it to likely Republican out of an absolute abundance of caution.
Mm-hmm.
But, we didn't seriously think she was in danger of losing. And, I think she'll end up winning by less than 1,000 votes based on, the little that we know about where the ballots are coming from and all of that. But that forecloses some of the path. But, Washington's 3rd, Arizona's 1st, Arizona's 6th as well, maybe, perhaps. And then numerous seats like in California, like District 13, 22, 27, 47, 49 that are still, up in the air. Most of those should break for Democrats, but I think they'll fall 1 or 2 seats short of a majority, which will be really something to see. I'm not a political prognosticator or anything in terms of what happens after the votes are counted and they get to D.C. in terms of the legislating. So I don't know how that's going to work, but, I can imagine it'll be ample environment for some firecrackers.
What happened with Alan Fung?
Yeah, so I came on here and I said, what did I tell you? Did I say I think Fung wins?
I don't know if you said that. I remember we might have talked about it off air, but you were like basically saying, the times that they've been on the ballot together, Magazine has actually gotten more votes.
So I think I was right about that.
Yeah.
I think I was right about that. Let me see what Alan Fung got, 46.8, and that's basically the maximum that he's gotten in any statewide race in the second that, he's running. So I guess he really does have a ceiling. I was also right about saying that Connecticut 5 was going to be closer than Rhode Island 2. I do remember coming on here and saying that because, as New England goes, there's not a lot of opportunities to, win seats as a Republican. And so they're few and far between, and you can analyze them fairly well. Connecticut 5 was a redder seat, redder down ballot. Johanna Hayes is a worse candidate, even as an incumbent, than Seth Magaziner was. And in a neutral environment, right, which is what this is, there really was not a more than 50% chance for Fung to win. I mean, we fundamentally misread the environment. I mean, split ticket, we picked both Logan, who is the Republican in Connecticut 5, as well as Fung. Mm-hmm. But we caveated that by saying we think Logan is a better chance to win than Fung, which ended up being correct.
Well, why? I mean, I guess with Rhode Island, it's just people, voters coming home, right, to where they normally go. I think especially at a time like this. But Why is it that Republicans why is it that Lauren Boebert almost lost? Or maybe she might still lose. There's an outside chance.
I've been covering that extensively on Twitter, and to my knowledge, so obviously some of it is the fact that she's very caustic and gets people to
she's horrendous.
Her,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's not just that, because if it was just that, you would only see the counties that make up the third being, constituting a close race for the House. That's not true. The Jared Polis, the governor, and Senator Michael Bennet are also putting in performances that are also going to be very close within the boundaries of the third. I think Polis is narrowly carrying the third district, and Bennet is going to probably run behind that a little bit, but not by much. We'll see. So I think part of it is that. I think part of it is also there's a lot of historical republicanism in the third counties, especially in Mesa, which is Grand Junction, and then Delta County and Montrose counties, which, the cities are the same name there as well. And there are definitely some, more socially libertarian, culturally moderate Republicans who have historically voted the conservative line before, but, for some or other reason, we don't exactly know what yet, because there's, the jury's still out on a lot of things, and we need reporters to go and dig things up and to look at precinct results. But historically, they're a lot more Republican than they, ought to be, and much in the same way that, Acushnet, which you're very familiar with, is a lot more Democratic than it ought to be, even as it is now a Trump-won town. It didn't used to be that way.
Trump won in a Hodgson-won town, too, I think pretty comfortably as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I haven't looked at the Hodgson results, but I'm impressed that he actually lost. I didn't think that was going to happen.
I didn't either.
But
I thought it could have. I thought it could have happened. I just didn't think it would. With the Hodgson race.
I think Lauren Boebert is ultimately going to win because Pueblo, which is one of the bigger counties in the third, and it has a lot of working class Hispanics and working class whites. Pueblo's moved more Republican than it used to be. Kind of similar to a Fall River or New Bedford. And so the margins that the Democrat, Adam Frisch, can get out of there just aren't as big as they used to be.
Yeah.
And it's still a Republican district, so it moved left, but just closed but no cigar, So I think come in the next couple cycles, Democrats will try to smell blood in the water, and, we'll see exactly where we can go with that.
So we're speaking with Armin Thomas. He's an election mapper. He works on a website called Split Ticket. He's actually a partner on that website. So, Armin, so you're thinking like right now, it looks like a 1 or 2 seat majority in the House for the Republicans. What about the Senate? It looks like, we're assuming Ron Johnson's going to get reelected, right?
He is. Yeah, he is.
Okay.
So with the Senate, it basically boils down to Arizona and Nevada, because Dr. Oz got destroyed in Pennsylvania. I did not expect that.
Yeah, you said he was going to. You said he was going to win.
Well, yeah. Everybody thought he was going to win.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah.
All of the major forecasters thought he was going to win. And we said, Fetterman can win, but it'll be close. We did not expect a 4-point Fetterman win. I guess the polling somehow underestimated Democrats, which is unusual given the past 2 to 3 cycles of what happened. But Dr. Oz was actually that bad of a candidate.
Well, so yeah, he was pretty horrendous. But I always say this: he murdered puppies for a living. He got paid to murder puppies. Well,
let's be very clear here. So he got paid to experiment in puppies and euthanize them, which he failed to do.
Okay. He got paid to try to murder puppies.
I don't condone that, but there is a place for things like that in the context of scientific research, and it does happen, with controlled, regulated procedures.
Listen,
Dr. Oz did not do that, and that is the real thing here, is that he applied the death to the dog without any sedation or medication or whatever.
Thanks for.
I just want to be clear. I do not condone puppy killing.
I'm gonna leave those comments there. because I don't want to get into the bioethics of puppy euthanasia. So we're speaking with Armin Thomas. You worked at Split Ticket. All right. So you said Nevada. Looks like Laxalt's ahead. Is he likely to win that?
I don't think so. I think that there's most of the ballots that are left are mail-in ballots, which are, heavily going to favor Catherine Cortez Masto, the Democrat. She's only down 16,000 votes, and there's still at least like 100,000 ballots that have to be counted. And, some of these batches of mail-in ballots are coming in at 2-to-1 margins for the Democrats.
Okay.
So, we'll see what happens, but, I would rather be Catherine Cortez Masto right now. Arizona-wise, I think Blake Masters really does not have much of a path. Because Mark Kelly is outperforming Biden in rural Arizona, much less Maricopa. Now, granted, rural Arizona doesn't have a lot of people, but it has a lot of culturally conservative whites, which are, somewhat similar to culturally conservative whites in Maricopa. And, if Kelly's holding up well with culturally conservative whites across the board, there really isn't much of a path for Blake Masters. So I think it's fairly likely. We haven't officially said it, but it's not impossible that Democrats can just get to 50 seats without even worrying about a runoff in Georgia.
Oh, because they picked up the seat in Pennsylvania.
Exactly, which no one really expected to do.
That's right. So if they would just need to win Nevada and then Georgia.
If they win Nevada and if they maintain their leads in Nevada and Arizona, then yeah, the Senate is Democratic.
Huh. That's interesting. I mean, yeah, you still got to deal with Manchin and Sinema and all of that. But so we're speaking with Armin Thomas of Split Ticket. So it looks. So what about the runoff in Georgia? That's guaranteed to happen at this point, right? Because just for people who don't know, if you don't get 50% of the vote in Georgia or over 50%. If one candidate doesn't get over 50%, it goes then to a runoff election in which, the candidates it's the top two candidates in the field, basically.
Right. Yeah.
So what do you think is going to happen there?
I think Warnock is very narrowly favored. Yeah. But we'll have to see. I mean, campaigning affects a lot of things.
What are some of the other, we talked about Boebert, she's likely to win based on what you're seeing. Are there any others, what do you, if it's going to be, a one vote Democratic lead or a one vote Republican lead in the House, what do you think a couple other of the deciding House races are?
I think California 27, Christy Smith versus Mike Garcia is going to be very important. I think that California 22, Rudy Salas versus David Valadao is there. California 41, which is Will Rollins versus Ken Calvert, is also there. I think that, there's just Arizona 1, Arizona 6. I forget the name. I think Arizona 1 is Jevin Hodge versus Dave Schweikert, and then Arizona 6 is Juan Ciscomani versus Kirsten Engel.
How long till all of this is figured out? We know who wins what where.
A week at least, probably.
A week at least before we know who has both chambers. That's interesting. So let's talk about something that's a little bit more, and if you'll entertain me on this, talk about something that's a little bit more abstract but likely to happen. Ron DeSantis won his gubernatorial election. They basically, I think it was called at the time the polls closed. And he had some speech that I guess Republicans thought was epic and awesome. He's going to be and then Trump came out with a statement that saying, calling him Ron DeSanctimonious. I think there's better nicknames he can think of for Ron DeSantis, and I think he will. He's just got to get in his groove. Do you have any thoughts on a potential Republican primary between Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, and who would be likely to win?
Yeah, so I think that Trump would start out as a favorite.
Yeah,
right? I mean, he's still the incumbent president, and
people do think there are people that do think he's the incumbent president. He's literally the president. So that's part of it. But sorry, continue.
The DeSantis hype is very much from what's it called? College-educated Republicans of the type that are angered that they don't really control the direction of the GOP anymore. They saw that with Trump. Especially with the anti-Trump Republicans, where the wheels came off the bus and they were like, we want to stop Trump. DeSantis is that type of guy. He can deliver all of the right-wing culture war conservatism that Trump did without getting them excluded from a cocktail party because the lack of social desirability that is associated with Trump in college-educated circles.
That's where that's what I was saying about. I was telling one of my friends that Ron DeSantis is very much like the Elizabeth Warren of the Republican Party in that, very popular online, very popular with college-educated whites, but when you get down to the base, people, people don't think about it as much as you do or I do or any somebody with maybe a little bit more background in education, and people don't think about it as much. They just like the guy that they like.
Exactly, right? How familiar are you with the guy named J.R. Majewski?
Yeah, fairly. Okay, so J.R. Majewski, did he lose to J.D. Vance so
he ran against Marcy Kaptur for House.
Okay.
And he got smacked.
I was thinking of Josh Mandel, maybe, or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Josh Mandel was basically aping being a Trump loon. He's not actually some MAGA person like that.
Yeah. Okay, you're saying Majewski.
Majewski ran for Congress, and he became famous for painting a giant picture of Trump on his lawn.
I remember this guy. Yeah.
He was at the insurrection.
Yep.
And he made a rap video where he said, "Let's go Brandon" and whatnot.
Yeah, I remember this guy. Yeah.
That guy is much more emblematic of the Republican base than, conservative commentators on Twitter who say that, Trump is unpresidential and we need Ron DeSantis. I mean, I agree Trump is unpresidential, but Ron DeSantis, there's not that much substantively different than Trump, There's
nothing substantively different other than he's less rude. They're the exact same person. They like the exact same things. They have the exact same policies. It's just it's lipstick on a pig. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same awfulness and homophobia and race baiting as Trump does. It's just presented in a way. It's presented in a tinier package with a comb over. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little bit more of my own opinions in that, but
oh, it's okay. I mean, look, I'll factually state things, which is that Ron DeSantis is not, that different politically speaking. If the things he's done as governor are not that different than what what Trump has tried to do and things like that. So and if you look at Ron DeSantis, he's doing well in Florida, but that's also part of the reason is because, where are all of the, culturally conservative reactionary people from Massachusetts and New York and everywhere moving to? Florida.
Yeah.
They're all self-selecting into a place that, is kind of just this, swampy cage of reactionary politics.
Right.
And, that's why he's winning by 20, college-educated whites in Massachusetts and college-educated whites in Pennsylvania are very different than college-educated whites in Florida. And, he's never really had and in terms of a general election, right, I'm not exactly sure that he's a particularly, his campaigning style lends himself well to that against a Democrat that, Andrew Gillum, that he beat, had his own set of issues, and he still barely beat him.
He sure did. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. No, that's true. And he barely beat him. I remember in 2018, actually, everybody was projecting that the Democrats would win the governor's and Senate seat, and they barely lost both of them. But yeah, no, I was thinking the same thing. Go tell the children of the corn in Iowa that, Ron DeSantis is, has policies and he's executed and all of that. No, they just they don't have, he doesn't have the same bravado. Not to mention, this shouldn't matter, but it does. Trump's like 6'4", right? Ron DeSantis.
Oh, it does, yeah.
Ron DeSantis is, 5'8", with a comb over and has like a light sort of screechy voice. And that matters in presidential politics. I'm sorry. He's going to call him like Dinky DeSantis or something like that. And that's going to stick with him.
He called him Ron DeSanctimonious is what he said.
He can do better. Regular Ron would be better. Like, he can do better. I think he's got to, he's been out of the game for a while. He's got to get he'll get his fastball again. I think he will. And when you see him up in the debate stage and he's verbally abusing him, I mean, this is all more substantive stuff, but anyway, Armin Thomas, the split ticket. I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else that people should watch for in the coming week or so with trying to decide, figure out who wins the...
Yeah, watch the California House races. I mean, there's a lot of mail-in ballots there. They're going to count them, but mail-in votes take a lot of time to count.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they do. I mean, in-person votes too do as well, but mail-in votes, especially when they're postmarked after, you can. Okay, let me start again. I'm tripping over my own words. In California, mail-in votes, as long as they're postmarked by Election Day, can be legally counted.
Okay.
Which means that it's no matter the date, as long as they receive a ballot that was sent by Election Day, they'll have to count it by law. And that means this can take forever. That's different than, I think, Florida. They have it so that it has to be received by Election Day in order to be counted. It doesn't impact turnout or anything. Turnout in Florida is very, very high. But, we know the results very, very quickly in Florida. We don't necessarily in California, but watch the California results because that's where, the House is going to be decided.
So that's interesting. So we'll look at that. We'll look at those races. I want to, before I let you go, I want to bring you back here to New England just for one more election that, people thought for a couple days before the election day was competitive and turned out not to be. Don Bolduc versus Maggie Hassan in New Hampshire.
Oh, yeah. So I guess if we're in the business of airing opinions and whatnot, right, the New Hampshire Republican hype is what you get when, GOP-leaning consultants in New England and the Boston area run out of ideas for things that they can actually win.
Right.
That's basically what it is, right?
Yeah, right.
Chris Sununu is the last hope of the New Hampshire GOP, and even he only won by 15 when he won by 33 last time.
And he's a legacy. He's a legacy.
Yeah, and he's coasting on the family name. Right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
And Don Bolduc he's just out of step. Sununu is conservative, but he can portray himself as someone who's moderate and understands that New Hampshire is a changing place, and you can't get away with being, an open super MAGA Republican in the way Don Bolduc did.
Right.
And, I thought Bolduc was going to lose by 3. I mean, he's closer to losing to 13. I mean, the state is just, okay, one, it's more democratic than we thought it was going to be, but two, the state's just changed. And, Maggie Hassan, everyone thought that, she was in some kind of danger, but it really didn't seem that way. And even against Chris Sununu, who was going to run, I don't think he would have beaten Maggie Hassan in this environment with how things are going. I mean, even in New Hampshire right now, the state house is borderline tied. Yeah. The two congressional candidates that they nominated, Levitt and Bob Burns, both flamed out.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, they gerrymandered the state Senate to have some relevancy for some longer time, but I don't really see what's in the cards for them other than, coming up for a lot of close losses the way that Republicans seem to do in Pennsylvania and things like that.
So Armin Thomas, a split ticket, that's splitticket.org if people want to see your elections coverage, right? Splitticket.org.
Yeah.
Splitticket.org. Hey, thanks for
split-ticket.org.
Sorry, split-ticket.org. if people want to see your elections coverage. Armin, thanks for joining me. We will definitely have you on again to break down what happened after it's all been decided, and take a look at that county sheriff's race, the Bristol County Sheriff's race too, because I'd love to get your opinion on it.
Of course, yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Okay, so that was Armin Thomas, a split ticket. Just wanted to talk a little bit about the midterms and some of the national stuff. I'm going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
1420 WBSN.
Right, I'm Marcus. 508-996-0500 is how you can get in the program. Yeah, so, a week before we see who takes the both chambers. That's going to be interesting. I'm really interested in the Trump versus DeSantis stuff that's coming out now. Again, I just don't see how Trump doesn't win the Republican primary. So I don't get it. Like, because everybody's like, I've been hearing, everybody Trump endorsed just lost, like a Dr. Oz and all of that, right? Well, everybody he endorsed, nobody won. Nobody won in the general, but in the primary they did, right? I think he did pretty well for his endorsements. In the primary, I think, like I said, it's like the Liz Warren thing. Like, people, like, it's someone that can. You're trying to triangulate, right? Sort of. You're sort of like, I think with DeSantis, it's like you're trying to triangulate. Like Warren was trying to triangulate like the moderate Biden wing and the more progressive Bernie wing, and it didn't work. I think DeSantis is sort of the same thing. He's trying to triangulate like the sort of visceral, right? Like sort of the visceral politics of Trump, versus like, but trying to like, the more like presentable, professional type of demeanor, like a Kasich, like a John Kasich or something like that, or even a John Sununu, right? Someone like that. And people just want one thing or the other. And I think with Trump, that's what they want. I think you want to like that sort of like very like visceral, like, these people are bad and that stuff. I think that's what people are going to go for. Plus, he just presents better. He's Trump's bigger. He's funnier. Ron DeSantis is like a foot shorter, has a squeaky voice, and like, look, none of that stuff should matter, right? But it does. It just does. Look at Biden, 6 feet. Obama, 6 feet. Trump 6'4", right? Bill Clinton 6 feet, Bush 6 feet, I think. So if you're not like 5'11" to 6 feet, usually you're not going to be president. That's just how. I mean, that's just how it's been for a long time. Usually you need to be taller, and when you have a guy that's like 6'4" and does like a great job making fun of people, right? I think it's going to be really difficult for him to escape the hilarious nicknames he's going to probably come up with for Ron DeSantis, like he did with everybody else. Because as soon as he slaps that label on the guy, Jeb's low energy, right? Lion Ted, Little Marco, they can't escape it. It's too catchy. So Ron DeSanctimonious isn't good. He'll get his fastball. He'll get his fastball. I think. I mean, DeSantis needs to, and the thing is he can't avoid it. He's got to run. He's got to run now because he's got the momentum coming off getting reelected. People are still remembering the storm, the storm recovery and all of that. If you wait around too long, you're going to get something. Right? There's going to be something that's going to stick to you that's going to crater your political career. You can't wait too long. That's what same thing with Obama. Obama knew as soon as he got elected to the Senate, he had to start preparing to run for president, because if you stick around too long, something's going to stick to you. Right? I always think of Chris Christie with Bridgegate. Chris Christie was going to be the next president, right? And then he stuck around too long. His second term, the Bridgegate scandal basically tanked his political career. So, and he tried to run in 2016 and flamed out pretty miserably. So you've got to go when you've got the momentum. If you don't, then you're not gonna win. You're definitely not gonna win. But I don't think DeSantis necessarily maybe wants to run against Donald Trump, but I also don't think he's gonna have a choice. It's just, we're still early on that stuff too. But we're hearing Trump's gonna make his presidential announcement sometime in the next week or so, right? I heard the 14th. 508-996-0500.
New Bedford's News Talk Station, 1420 WBSM.
There's literally...
They know the local issues from the inside out, and they call it like they see it. Chris McCarthy and Marcus Farrow are back with more South Coast Tonight on WBSM.
Yeah, it's just Marcus actually tonight, and Chris will be back tomorrow. And we have New Bedford Mayor Scott Lang. He, of course, is very involved in strategy, campaigning, and for himself and other people at the local, state, and national level. So, interested to hear his thoughts on the midterms, thoughts on the city elections, and all of that. I do want to close out some of the midterm talk, and then I want to get into a very local race that we're going to pivot to after the dust has settled on these elections. But it looks like that, basically in the exit polls, it's showing that while people disapproved of Biden, they still voted Democrat anyway. So it looks like a lot of people split their ticket. A lot of people split their ticket against Biden. They voted for Biden and voted Republicans in the 2020 election, right? Because Democrats lost seats. They gained a couple Senate seats, but they lost seats in the House. So I think, what Biden was trying, and I think that's what he's, that speech with the red background and all of that, where he was, everybody freaked out about it. I think that's what he was trying to do, is paint that picture for people to say, those people that split their ticket, you need to actually, if you like me, or you think I'm more palatable than Trump, well, everybody down ballot is just as bad as Trump is. That's basically what he was trying to do. I think that's what he's trying to accomplish, and it might have worked. I'm going to take a break. I actually want to talk about the Ward 3 city council election that's going to be coming up, so stay tuned.